Caribbean is often described as the most tourism-dependent region in the world. A Titan is described as one that stands out for greatness of achievement, one who is influential in his field. I'm Marlene Stevenson-Daly. Welcome to our podcast. We call it Jamaica's Tourism Titans. It's about the movers and shakers of the industry, men and women who have contributed to its growth and development in Jamaica, the region, and indeed the world. Hello there. Welcome to Jamaica's Tourism Titans. We're so happy that you took the time to join us today. And our special guest is a lady who wears many, many hats. She has many awards and honors, and she has served the organization that I too represent, the Tourism Product Development Company Limited, for many, many years. Her name is Allasandra Sandy Chung. Sandy, good to have you. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you, Marlene, and it's good to be here with you.
I haven't seen you in a little while, so I'm delighted to have you on this program. And we're going to talk about you. You have, over the years, made your mark, and we want to find out a little bit more about Sandy. Sandy, where were you born?
I was born in St. Catherine, Jamaica, actually on Old Harbour Road.
And you are from a family of how many?
Well, I have let me see. I believe I have four brothers and two sisters.
And your parents, tell me about them. I remember meeting your mom.
Well, both my parents were born in Jamaica, but my grandparents, both my grandfathers, were originally from China. My maternal grandmother is Indian, and I don't know her at all. It's my paternal grandmother is Indian. My maternal grandmother is somebody that we say I think has some maroon blood in her, and I don't know any of my grandparents because I don't recall. They all died before I had enough sense to know who they were.
A lot of Chinese immigrants went into the business of commerce coming into Jamaica, and because they were not perhaps as sturdy for the plantation as some of the Africans who came. But they went into commerce, they went into little businesses here and there and set up what we refer to as the Chinese shop. Was that your reality? Did your parents go
that's
to that
part of
business?
My reality. I actually grew up, my father, we had a shop, but we also had a number of other businesses. We had a shop, we had a gas station, we operated a cafeteria. At one time my father owned a bakery. He owned a number of buses. Those were the days when minibuses were around the place, but not the way they are now. At least, the people were pretty decent. And so we had a bus line that ran from Spanish Town through Sydenham and also up to in the Bogwalk area. Mm-hmm.
Did you have to help in the business? Were you?
Well, yes, I did. I tell persons all the time that at 12 years old, I was able to run my parents' business because my parents had to go away at one. They went overseas, and all they did was to pre-sign checks, and all of us ran the businesses.
As children?
Yes. And I didn't think of it as child labor or any of those things, and I would say it helped me a lot because, even when I went overseas to school, and I would say to persons, people talk about business, but they don't know what it is to know that on Friday you have to pay your staff.
Yes, indeed. What were your early years like, though, in terms of going to school and just becoming your own self?
Well, when I first went to primary school,
Which was?
I went to Macook's Primary, which is down in Innswood, and I mean, in 1 year I went through 3 classes because I was doing really well, and what my mother told me, I don't remember this, but she said I went to school very early because my 2 brothers were going to basic school, and even though I wasn't ready to go to basic school, I would cry to go to school, so they sent me to school. Mm-hmm. So when I went to primary school, when I left primary school, it was an all-age school. I would, at the time when I went to Wolmer's, I had just 1 grade left to finish primary school.
How did you get to Wolmer's?
Through the common entrance exam. I got a grant in aid, but and I was actually ready for the common entrance exam long before I actually went to Wolmer's, because I used to take common entrance classes. And when we had the mock test, when I was 9 years old, I remember that I came first as a girl, but the school wouldn't allow me to take the exam. So by the time I was taking it, I wasn't really interested anymore, because
you had already passed that.
No, because I was in these classes with when I left there, I was like the only person in my class that wasn't a teenager yet. Everybody in the class was like 15.
And you were?
11 plus 12, going on to 12.
Okay. So you're a bright girl from a long time.
So I did really, I used to do very well in primary school. I even took the Jamaica, what is that now, JSC it used to be. Mm-hmm. And when I was in first or second form at Wolmer's, through the primary school that I went to, and I got 8 subjects.
All right. Tell us about your time at Wolmer's. I know you were there and you continued to be a part of the Wolmer's family or part of the Alumni Association, and you continue to give back.
Well, Wolmer's was a really great experience in that, although it was an all-girls school, we formed some friendships and things. That while I was there, I was also president for the Red Cross. I was a prefect, and also the Wolmer's experience didn't do as well as I thought I would have done at Wolmer's, because first and second form were fine. By the time I got to fourth form, I had some problems with my sinuses, had to be taking medication to go to school and all of that. But overall, it was a great experience. And, we learned a lot of things at Wolmer's that I still hold on to, that you must always do things well. And so I actually also gave back to Wolmer's in that I became a member of the Past Students Association. We call it WOGA now. We call it Wolmer's Alumni Association. And so I was president for that for like 3 years, and I tried my best to do, because our basic thing is to assist the school and to give support, because I sat on the board of Wolmer's at that time, and the board was actually one board for all the 3 schools. Mm-hmm. And I found out that, the kind of the stipends that the schools get can't pay for things like the electricity that the schools utilize. It's inadequate.
It's never enough. And
right.
So the Alumni
and so
Association,
we have to be supplementing those things.
Yes.
And although I'm no longer president of the association, or I'm not on the management committee, but I still serve on the fundraising and events committee. I also serve on the nominations committee, and I'm actually their director of elections.
Okay. So let's move to your working life.
Yes.
What was your first job?
Well, my first job here in Jamaica was working at the Planning Institute of Jamaica. I actually worked as an economist, planner. I mean, I did a whole host of things while I was there, project manager. I also did things like occupational analysis, and so PIOJ I thought was a very good training ground and I did a lot of work in industrial relations because I used to write a chapter for the Economic and Social Survey of Jamaica. Did a lot of labor economics in terms of manpower projections, and so
You had a good time.
I had a good time, and I mean, it had nothing to do with the work why I left there. It had to do with HR and some of the things that they did that I didn't really like, and so I took a decision that I wasn't going to stay. They wanted me to stay, but I'd already committed to go into somewhere else, and so when the Director General called me into a meeting and said, "What can we do to make you stay?" I said, "I don't think there is anything. I've already made a commitment."
And that commitment was to go where?
To go to Tourism Action Plan.
We're going to talk a little bit about Tourism Action Plan because that would have been your first foray in the tourism industry. But even before we talk about what the Tourism Action Plan was and what it meant to the industry, tell me about your own preparation. Academically, you had to do a number of things to get yourself, first of all, to the positions that you were at PIOJ. Tell us a little bit about that.
I studied economics and psychology. I majored in economics and psychology and minored in journalism. And then I went and did some master's level economics. And then I came to PIOJ.
Where did you study?
In the United States at a place called American International College. And I also went to the University of New Hampshire in Durham. And so that's where, and when I went to the PIOJ at first, they also sent me to do a course in manpower projections at the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Also sent me to do some stuff in occupational analysis and, so the experience, there are lots of training that you get at PIOJ.
When you studied abroad, you would have had quite a diverse experience. What brought you back to Jamaica?
Well, actually, because my parents were here, and that was part of why I came back. Had it not been for my parents, I probably still would not have been in Jamaica, because when I studied abroad, I did really well in terms of, I got lots of awards because I was very involved in co-curricular activity, and so I was actually president of the student government there. And during my tenure, lots of things happened, and so we brought the student government back to the level that we thought it should have been. Very important. I used to have meetings almost twice a month with the president of the college. And I actually made a suggestion that one of the things that we should do is to have a center for the performing arts, and that the student government would give them at the time $5,000 towards the project.
And the funds were raised, and
the president accepted, and they did build the center. It's called the Griswold Center because Earl Griswold, who was an alumna of the college, his wife was the one who actually gave the rest of the money, and it was built. They had invited me at the time when it was to be opened. Unfortunately, I could not go at that time, but I went subsequently, and I got a full tour of the facility. Really fabulous.
Yes, that you were instrumental in getting off the ground by your lobby and your student governance activities. We're talking to Allasandra Sandy Chung, our special guest inside Jamaica's Tourism Titans. When we come back, we're going to talk about her foray into the area of tourism, hospitality and tourism through the Tourism Action Plan. Is that what it is?
Yes, it was through the Tourism Action Plan.
TAP. And later on, her many years spent at the Tourism Product Development Company Limited, wearing, as I said before, many, many hats, participating, performing in many different roles. And she truly became a household name within that organization. This is Jamaica's Tourism Titans. We'll be back in just a moment.
In tourism, the people are the product. Yes, they are one of our industry's most important assets. They help create memorable lifetime experiences. They, through their service, make the difference. We share the stories of their challenges and triumphs, of what makes them tick, of who they really are, just to inspire you to act positively. You too can be an ambassador for tourism and our country and become a Jamaican tourism titan. Start today.
TPDCo's Explore Jamaica has insights into licensed tourism entities across Jamaica. Visit the Google or Apple Play Store and download the app today. If you're just joining us, welcome to Jamaica's Tourism Titans. My special guest is Allasandra Sandy Chung, and she is a lady, as I said, who wears many hats. She's a volunteer in many, many spheres, including the Jamaica Red Cross, her alumni association at the Wilma's School, and so many other areas. We can't get into all of them. But just before we took the break, we wanted to find out about her entry into the tourism industry here in Jamaica through the organization Tourism Action Plan. How did that come about, Sandy?
Well, that was quite by accident, in that I was looking to leave PIOG because of some problems I had with HR. And so I applied. There was this ad in the paper, and I applied, and it turned out it was really a job with the Chambers of Commerce, one of them. And I actually went for the interview. They wanted to hire me, but they could not afford to pay me what I wanted. And so Tourism Action Plan, which was headed by Faye Pickersgill at the time, Faye decided that, but no, I could use this person. And so she called me and said she wanted to meet with me. And I went, met with her, and she told me that what she wanted to do was to offer me a job. So that I could, work also at the time with all the various chambers and not just one. And so we talked, and they offered me the job. And so I went there initially as the operations manager. And so at that time, they had funding through USAID to do a number of projects and to work with the Chambers of Commerce, which were primarily Negril, Montego Bay, St. Anne, and the Portland Chambers. Those were the 4 Chambers of Commerce. After a while, they added Trelawney. Mm-hmm. And so the things that I used to do is, apart from working with the Chambers of Commerce at the time, they also had the Visitor Information Program, which came on at that time. And so I also managed that program in terms of, we had 36 information officers at that time.
And these persons were individuals who were interfacing with the visitors, sharing information about Jamaica, about their attractions, where to go, what to do, and just general information.
Yes, you're quite correct. That's what they did. And at that time, we had kiosks in Ocho Rios, Montego Bay, and Negril, 3 in each area.
What do you remember most about your time at the Tourism Action Plan? Because I know that didn't last for very, very long, and I also recall that they had the Sustaining the Environment program.
Well, the thing is, I one of the things that I remember is that at Tourism Action Plan, although the staff was small, we got a lot of things done. And so when we would go out into the different tourism areas, people would think that we had a staff of maybe 20, 30, 40 persons, but it was just 5 of us in office at that time. But, you know, we really did a lot of work. I mean, we had no office attendant as such.
You were your own office attendant.
We had no receptionist,
Yes.
so we all answered the phones, and you know, everybody that was there at the time, whatever was happening, you all chipped in, even though that might not have been what you were there for.
Yes.
And so it worked out really well. We got because we did a document for Ocherius at the time, how to improve Main Street. We also did one for the Gloucester Avenue area.
No, the Jimmy Cliff
Right,
Boulevard in Montego
and
Bay.
so, you know, we had also done plans to upgrade the Ocherius Market.
Fast forward to TPDCo, Tourism
Yes.
Product Development Company Limited. TAP closed, and out of the ashes, I believe, of the TAP, you know, that phoenix rising was TPDCo. You joined TPDCo in
1996. But with the closure, it wasn't really a closure of TAP. The thing is, at the time, the government wanted to use the name TAP, but TAP was then owned by what one would term as private sector. And so they would not agree for that. And so government went and resuscitated. They actually had that company existing. It was like a shell company at the time. And so they decided to activate it and to use it. And they actually took 95% of the staff came over from Tourism Action Plan to TPDCo.
well, you only had 5, so if 4 came across.
No. At that time, the staff had gotten bigger.
Okay.
Because what had happened is that after 1992, TAP had taken over some of the work that used to be done by the Jamaica Tourist Board, which was the part about standards, the inspection,
Okay.
as well
Quality
as the
assurance.
tourism training.
Yes.
Those things came, and so by that time you had maybe 60, 70 persons at TAP when it was
Okay. So you,
plus the JADCO and RDC, all of that came over to TAP, you know.
all right, so let's talk a little bit about TPDCo. You have worn several hats in that organization. You started out as
A project manager. And then I went to acting as director of special projects. And then at one time I was director of product development. At one time I was executive business manager. And then when I finally left there, I was director of attractions and community tourism.
What has been the most interesting project that you have seen out of the ground and seen to fruition in your time at TPDCo? You would have been involved in many aspects of the organization, but does any one thing stand out for you in terms of the work of the organization?
Well,
that you were involved
in terms of the work of the organization, one of the things that I would say was really, really good for us is actually in terms of community tourism and working with the community tourism enterprises, because I believe that that is a way that Jamaica's tourism product can be more enhanced and that our people can feel tourism. Because my thing with working with tourism is that it's not just for the tourists. I think first we have to understand that our people need to feel that they are a part of it. And if they are not benefiting financially from it, then they won't feel like they're a part of it. And I think that is a very, very important aspect of it. We talk about sustainable tourism, but now I think there's a new thing that we're talking about, and it's called regenerative tourism. And also there are things that which are are aspects of community tourism, like volunteer tourism and all of the different things that people are banding around. But right now, I think we need to ensure that the people who come as our visitors, they give back something. And so for me, I think regenerative tourism is the way that we should go. You know, I think Jamaica's tourism product also has a lot to offer, and we are not, I don't like to use the word exploiting, but we are not really letting tourism benefit us as much as it could, because in areas such as cultural heritage, faith-based, those are areas that we have
not yet explored as much as it could be.
Explored as we could and gotten the benefit, because those, for example, faith-based tourism is like a $20 billion industry. We don't even get not even 1% of that. And you know, but there is work that we need to do in order to make that happen.
Yes.
But we don't seem to be committed to doing it. We pay lip service to it all the time. We say, yes, you know, we are going to be doing this and we are going to be doing heritage. There are so many. I actually undertook, one of the things I did while I was at TPDCo is to compile, with the assistance of the staff and some interns that we had, a list of heritage sites throughout the island.
Do you remember how many we have listed?
It's
Every
thousands
single parish has
of every
its
parish.
own
And
unique.
I mean, what we did was we used some information that was utilized for the tourism master plan to start with, but I went and I got all the other types of books, documents, maps, everything. And when we were finished, we compiled, I don't think anybody else has, not even the Jamaica National Heritage Trust has all of those sites listed. I left that information at TPDCo. I don't know if it has really gone very much further than where I left it, because we would go out and we sent out the interns at first with a staff member, but I personally went out there myself at one point in order, and I would go into the parishes. I would call persons before I was coming to say, I'm going to go and I'm going to look at this church or this site. And they would say to me, but you know, Miss Chung, there's another place.
Yes, and that documentation and that information is so important.
And
as
they would
we collate our heritage.
Right.
Yes.
They would direct me to other sites. And so we would go and look at those sites as well. And so I found a lot of places that were not, a lot of churches, a lot of sites. I went to Clarendon and I found where there was a jail, actually had a gallows. It's a private property. It's near to the Lionel Town area. And I don't think anything is going to happen until that place is destroyed, you know.
So Sandy, what's your favorite place to visit in Jamaica?
I wouldn't say that I have a favorite place, a single favorite place. There are a number of places. And the reason I like to visit some of these places, it's really the people, right? Working with the people and seeing when you do a project and you see that the people feel like they have benefited. Like I tell people, I used to do a lot of work in St. Elizabeth, the south side of St. Elizabeth. And one of the projects that we did was to refurbish what we call a community space for the people down in Great Bay. And one of the things that always stuck with me was we did that project in a few weeks. We refurbished that place for them. And what the thing is, the honesty of those people, we put a light bulb in the place. The place is not locked up, right? We call it a cultural community center or whatever.
And you go back and that
and
light bulb
I
is
went
still
back
there.
1 year after, and the light bulb was still there.
Yes.
And I told people, I said, one of the reasons for that is because the people, when we were doing that project, they felt like they were a part of it. They would come out there when the people who were working for us had to come and work in the evenings because they had regular jobs.
Right, so they owned it. It's
right,
their project.
and they owned it. They would be there till 9 o'clock. I would be leaving Great Bay sometimes at 9 p.m. in the night to come back to Kingston.
Sandy, you are a volunteer as we wind down the program for today. You're a volunteer in so many different areas. I know you've worked along with the folks for International Coastal Cleanup Day. You've worked for Labor Day. You've done work with the Red Cross, and you are serving right now as the president of the national, that's a Jamaica Red Cross at the national level. And you have been serving that organization for many, many years. What inspires you to this whole business of volunteerism? And you mentioned earlier on about voluntourism, but tell me now about how you feel. What motivates you to be such a prolific volunteer?
I think it's what I tell people. It's not the money. It's just that feeling. You get a good feeling from to say that, I have made things a little bit easier for somebody else, or I've helped somebody along the way. Mm-hmm. And like I tell people, I might be able to help you today, so let me help you today because I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, and I might not be in the same position, And so for me, especially for Red Cross, I've been a Red Cross volunteer since I was at Wolmer's in high school. And although I took a back seat during some periods, but I never really left the Red Cross. And so today, as I serve as president, my thing is to try and make the Red Cross an organization that is going to be committed, responsive to the needs of our people, and resilient.
Yes. If you go anywhere across the various resorts in Jamaica and you call the name Sandy Chung, I think many ears will go up because they would have had an encounter with you, some interaction somewhere along the way. How does that make you feel?
Well, it makes me feel that at least I have done something good. Mm-hmm. If I hadn't done something good, I don't think the people would remember my name.
And you received an Order of Distinction for invaluable contribution to tourism and community development, I believe, in 2019. And that would have been a significant honor and achievement, which would have been bestowed on you by the government of Jamaica. What would you want your legacy to be, Sandy, when people think of Sandy Chung and the many, many years that you have spent working in tourism in particular? What would you want to be remembered for?
I think I would want people to remember me to say at least, I was respectful, I was kind, and, I gave it my best shot.
And that's a good note on which to end, Sandy. You gave it your best shot, and you continue to give it your best shot, because even though you are now retired, I say to you, you're not tired, and so you continue to serve at so many different levels, whether it's the Chinese Benevolent Association, whether it's your Alumni Association, whether it is your Strata Association, whatever it is, you have a role to play, and you have been playing that role so well. Thank you so much for being my guest, and congratulations on all your awards and all of your honors. And thank you so much for continuing the journey, even in retirement, to serve our communities across Jamaica and to have a positive impact on our young people in particular.
Thank you too, Marlene, and it was good seeing you.
My pleasure. You've been listening to Jamaica's Tourism Titans, and we invite you to join us again for another episode. And what good? Thank Thank you so much for listening to Jamaica's Tourism Titans. We welcome your feedback at letusknow@tpdco.org. Leave us a comment, share, like, and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at TPDCoJA. I'm Marlene Stevenson Daly. See you soon.